I believe that oppositional defiance disorder, ODD, and the behavioral anger and that kind of thing that we see in kids with ADHD, to me, it's just a sign. I want to do this. No. Then don't say no, because the feelings that they get after that emotional meltdown is that they feel embarrassed, that they were a bad kid, right? So it's habit when something happens.
Anger management with children, especially those with oppositional defiant disorder, ODD. What coaching methods work best? How can parents guide their child through managing anger aside from breathing or meditation?
I wanted to say that right off the bat, I believe that oppositional defiance disorder, ODD, and the behavioral anger and that kind of thing that we see in kids with ADHD, to me, it's just a sign that they are incredibly frustrated, that the expectation that we're putting on them is too high for them to meet. And so they're getting a lot of negative feedback. They're putting in 150% effort and they can't get the results that they want. And it's coming out as defiance because they don't want you to tell them more stuff to do. They're telling you, I've had it, I can't do it, and you're not listening. I genuinely think that ODD is just really anger as it relates to the frustration of having an ADHD brain, right? I think that there's a lot of strategies you can do to reduce that. And I will say I speak from experience because my daughter had the biggest meltdowns a couple of years ago. And, that included there's a lot of anger. And I also want to acknowledge how the parents feel when they see their kids in that state. It's exhausting, it's stressful, it's emotional. Like, that's hard. Like, absolutely. Sorry. But I want to say all the strategies that you put in place for managing anger, when your child is in a meltdown or having that anger, the blood is drained out of the front thinking part of their brain into their emotional brain. Even though they know how to count to 5 and do the deep breathing and all of that stuff, that's all up here. The minute they're that angry, there's no blood flow in this part of the brain. So they can't even think about using the strategies.
Got it.
So 2 things. One is you want to try to prevent the anger as much as possible.
We have to find the trigger, right?
Find the trigger, 100%. So if you know that your child has a tough time getting off screens to go to school, maybe you think about no screens in the morning because you know that's going to be so hard for them.
That's
right? And you can talk to your child about it in a nice way. I see how hard it is for you. I hate that it's so hard for you. So let's try this instead. And that way I won't be expecting you to do something so hard before school. If your child hates the word no, I want to do this. No. Then don't say no. Try to find another way to say, let's do that later. So you're saying yes, but later. Or I want to eat a cookie. Why don't you grab the cookie and let's put it on a plate to have after dinner?
Great.
So it's trying to be creative and don't say no. Try to say yes, but yes, and, right? And then the last thing is if your child is in full meltdown, when that happens, they've lost some control of their body. They react instinctually. They're going to be worried that you are going to love them less. They are worried about what they look like and how they're being perceived. So you want to make sure that you stay there with them physically if you can, or nearby. And I love you. You're okay. You'll make it through this. That was a big one. Do you need a hug? Check in with them, because the feelings that they get after that emotional meltdown is that they feel embarrassed and that you may love them less, that they were a bad kid, right? So make sure you check in with them afterwards. The more that they feel supported, and then, of course, developmentally, they'll be able to manage their emotions better. You're going to keep that connection strong so that it's not going to make them feel even more upset and more angry and disconnected.
So about the meltdown, I haven't heard about this word. Is it something like they lose their control? They get angry or something?
I think it's our way of just explaining when that emotion gets big. So you can always tell when your child is upset, but you can still talk to them. And then when they go cross that line and now they're emotional and they're not listening, they're yelling and screaming, and maybe they're physically throwing things, or maybe they're crying or whatever, but you can't talk to them anymore. They're not really listening. We call that a meltdown, which again, the brain is not working properly. This part of the brain, there's no blood in this part of the brain, which means they can't listen. They can't process what you're saying.
Then should we wait for them to calm down?
So try to stop it before, right? That's the best way to do it. And I've lived through it where my daughter would want to. So I know how hard that can be. You definitely want to, they're calmer, less words. No words is better because they can't process words. And just wait.
I want to ask you as a teacher. So when you see a child who's going through meltdown at school, then what Canadian teachers do to help the kid?
I haven't been a teacher within a school, just in the academies.
Yeah.
But I would say it's difficult in a class because there's so many kids and there's a curriculum and you have to move forward. But one thing to remember in the class is that the child is going to be even more embarrassed and shamed because it's now a public meltdown.
Yeah.
So the more attention that child gets, the worse the meltdown's going to be, the longer it's going to last. So it's habit. When something happens, let them have their moment and the teacher continue on, or try to let that child know that you're there for them. Or if there's another staff member that can come and just keep them company and not say anything, just keep them company.
That's a great way.
Because they're really, again, depending on how old they are, if they're younger, which is what my experience is, they can't control their emotions. They're so angry and frustrated and they feel so bad about what's happening. The things that they do, that they throw something or they say something, they're really embarrassed about it. And so it's important to try as much as you can to let that child know that you're there for them. Checking in with them afterwards would be really important.
Oh, good.
Right? Say like, I'm so sorry that happened. Are you okay? What can I do to help you next time? What do you think? Do you want to step out into the hallway? Like talking about it when they're rational and calm before it happens again. Because then you can like help them in the moment because they won't be able to talk in the moment.
I totally agree.
Right?
Because I have seen some students going through the meltdown at school. We're kind of like lacking extra staff for helping neurodivergent kids. So it's really difficult as a teacher and especially for kids. So we kind of have made the rule that if a kid is making a mess, by the rule, that kid has to be taken out from the class. But mom and dad think that it's unfair. But what you're saying is more helpful for the kid, you think?
It might be if it's done in a way that's like supportive. It depends on how it's done. So if a student is made to feel that they are not the same as others or that they are behaving badly, they are going to feel worse because they're being left out of the group. And every human wants to be part of a group, right? If it's done in a supportive way, like, hey, I got you. The classroom doesn't feel like the best place for you right now. This is maybe a perfect world, right? And this is not what actually happens. In Canada, it's hard for that to happen too. It's just there's not enough people. So it might be really good for parents to talk to the teachers when there is a meltdown. Also, tracking when the meltdowns may happen at school. Are they happening right after recess? Right? Or is it in the afternoon? Understanding the triggers is kind of the most important part. Nobody wants the meltdowns. The child does not want the meltdown either. They're so embarrassed at school when that happens.
Sometimes I just feel so bad for those kids.
But checking in with them afterwards and say, like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And like, how do you feel about it? And what can I do to support you?
I think it's Korean culture. We are not good at supporting someone or mentally having difficulties. And the thing is, Korean teachers are really having a burden with a lot of paperwork too. And managing the whole class is really difficult for them sometimes. So when something like that happens, as a teacher, it's really important for teachers to just handle it just quickly, not in a supportive way. It's really difficult.
It is. I wouldn't say, I think as parents advocating for your child to say, these are the triggers or these are the things, having a conversation early in the school year and maybe within a month or two.
Having a good relationship with the teacher is really important. Right?
I would say teachers see one side of your child, but as a parent, you need to be the expert. There's also this perception that as parents, we're waiting for other people to tell us what to do with our child, but they don't know your child the way you do. And some things may be great advice and other things may not be the best. So being able to understand what your child needs, how they think, what their triggers are, that kind of thing, and sharing that with the teacher. So now the teacher can see that child really struggles with transitions, for example. So moving from one subject to another. And so maybe giving a 5-minute warning to say, in 5 minutes, we're going to switch. That just might be enough for that child to manage a little bit better.
It would be very helpful.
Yeah. Be brave, be confident to ask the teacher and say, this is what my child needs. My child can do the work. They just need that little bit of extra help from you. But if you don't ask for it, I don't think the teachers would know.